morning everyone. We're here today obviously to discuss and get ideas about how we can build for the demonstration, which is in just 10 days' time. But I just want to start really by saying I think now we're on the brink of potentially the biggest wave of protests and strikes that we've seen for many years. That starts with the People's Assembly demonstration on the 21st of June. On the 18th of October, the TUC have also called a national demonstration, and sandwiched in between those two demonstrations, there's a possibility of 2 days of coordinated strike action, which looks like it could be the biggest coordinated strike action, certainly since the pensions dispute in 2011. And I think obviously it couldn't come at a better time, it couldn't come too soon, because austerity is not going away. And I think it's an absolutely crucial time right now that the movement picks up in this way, because we're in the run-up to a general election. Obviously the Euro elections, we saw the results from the Euro elections where UKIP did get were strengthened at least by that. But crucially, I think the activity over the next 6 months could be the knockout blow to the Tories. It could have a serious effect on the Labour Party, and it certainly is partly the response that we need to UKIP and to the other right-wing parties in Britain. But also austerity is not going away, certainly not according to the politicians. We don't need to go through exactly what's happening, but we are now going through the biggest fall in living standards since records began. So I think for all of these reasons, a mass movement against austerity is more important than ever. Now the coordinated strikes, I think, are absolutely central to this. Like I said before, they could be the biggest since 2011. And the TUC demonstration, I think, has got the potential to be the biggest demonstration in British history, actually, if you think about what's happening to people in the country. But the People's Assembly demonstration in 10 days' time, I think a lot of that rests on what we do in the next 10 days and the size of that demonstration, because that demonstration will have a direct impact on the success of the strikes. It will have a direct impact on the confidence of people in the workplaces to go out and to take action. It will have a direct impact on the size of the TUC demonstration. So I think anything that we can do in the next 10 days to make that demonstration as big as possible is absolutely crucial. And I think it's looking like it's going to be a very big demonstration already. Every major national trade union is backing the demonstration. Every major national campaign is backing the demonstration. We've got over 50 coaches booked from across the country to come down to that demonstration, which is obviously a fantastic start. In terms of the organisations and the unions and stuff that are supporting it, we're organising big blocks on the demo to represent the whole movement. So, for example, there's going to be a big Stand Up for Education block that the NUT is organising. There's going to be a big anti-war block which Stop the War in C&D are organising. There's going to be a big housing block on the demonstration. UK Uncut are organising a big block. There's a big NHS block organised partly by Unite, partly by Keeper NHS Public, all of those kinds of things. And the list goes on. And I think it started to catch the imagination of people. For example, I don't know if people saw, but the disgraceful spikes that have been sticking up now across London to stop homeless people sleeping outside shops and under bridges and all those kinds of things. Well, there's a guy that's organising a big protest. Well, I don't know how big it's going to be, but it looks like it's going to be big. And he's organising a protest before the demonstration at the Tesco's on Regent Street that they've decided to put these spikes in. And then he's going to bring a whole load of people onto the demonstration as part of the housing block. There's going to be a big flash mob on the tube, which is meeting up at Trafalgar Square before the demonstration. Then they're going to come on the tube together as a big flash mob against Boris's plans to use water cannon for the first time in London. The TSSA are bringing a big cardboard 30-foot train which will run down the side of the demonstration on the transport block of the demonstration. The FBU are going to bring a big fire engine on the demonstration. You know, there's all of these different things that are going on. So I really think it's starting to catch the imagination across the movement. And I think, you know, we need to think about the best ways to kind of get our arguments and how that demonstration can seriously represent everything that's happening around austerity. So any ideas about other organisations that we can contact, get it through other networks, all that kind of stuff from you, please let us know today. We've had some fantastic street stalls across the country. I don't know if people have seen, but we've been taking pictures of people holding up the demo posters, tweeting them out at them, tweeting them out from the People's Assembly website, and we've compiled a bit of a demo blog with all of these kind of things. In London last weekend, we had over 20 stalls to build a demonstration, and that's running alone, which is absolutely fantastic, and we need to continue that this weekend. Obviously, there's only one weekend left. But I'm also, just to keep people up to date, I sent an email out about this a few days ago, but after some very difficult negotiations with the police, with the GLA, with TfL, with Westminster Council, for the first time actually, certainly since the student demonstrations, but I'm not sure that they've agreed this since then, but we've actually managed to get, and they didn't even agree then, did they? But we've actually managed to, they backed down on letting us finish the demonstration in Parliament Square itself, which is a fantastic thing. It's actually a bit of a victory for us, because they wanted us to use the road down by Millbank, which is obviously much less public. It causes much more disruption, if you like, if it's right outside Parliament, on Parliament Square, and it's obviously a very symbolic place to have it. So I think that's a big victory, and I think we'll have a fantastic festively atmosphere down there on Parliament Square, which is fantastic. But as we all know, the majority of the demonstration, the people that are going to come on the demonstration, the majority of people will come from London. It's great we've got 50 coaches, but now in the next 10 days, we need to think very carefully about how we get tens of thousands of people from London onto that demonstration. And that means we obviously need to I think the demonstration has got out very well through the existing networks, and I think we're just on the brink, really, of getting it out into the wider public, getting thousands and thousands of new people that have never been involved with activism, never been involved in anything like this before, onto that demonstration. So I think every single day from now until the demo counts, and we need to be thinking every day we need to do something to build that demonstration. Obviously there's all the social media stuff that we need to keep going on about, but there's a bit of a plan, and when we split into the areas we can go through this in detail in terms of what we're doing around in our own local areas. But we've got one weekend left. I think this weekend we need to think a bit more creatively about the stalls that we do. I think we need to think about we should obviously have, 7 or 8 stalls in North, South, East and West London if possible. Then why not after you've done an hour and a half of leafleting, why don't you meet all together in one spot and do a big street meeting for, get a couple of speakers down, do it in the busiest part of North, South, East or West London, because actually Manchester did this last week and they had Owen Jones, but and they literally had 200 or 300 people that just converged around them, and they just went on about the demonstrations and about the People's Assembly. It was absolutely fantastic. So I think we should replicate that if possible this weekend. As well as doing the weekend, from now to the demo, I think we should aim to cover 2 or 3 tube stations every single night between now and the demonstration, so starting tomorrow. So if people could put aside, 3 or 4 or 5 or 6 days to get out there and just make sure that you're out there leafleting for the demonstration at the tube station, because it will make a very big difference. I think now is the time to get posters up everywhere we possibly can. Lots of shops will put them in the windows anyway, all of that kind of stuff, and we need to do that. But let's go back to the old school days of fly posting. Let's get posters up all across London. Let's do it all around the tube stations, all that kind of stuff, because that will have a big impact. And sometimes people need to see it 2 or 3 times before they actually come on the demonstration and before it becomes a reality. So let's make sure that we do that. There's a possibility we're looking into whether or not we can get a big battle bus this weekend where it's a big open-top double-decker bus which will travel around the stalls. So if we did a stop in South London, a stop in East London, a stop in North London, possibly West if we can get it, and that could form the street meetings, but we'll let you know about that. If it's not this weekend, we'll try and do it an evening next week with a battle bus going around central London, you know, with a big PA system on top, shouting to people about the demonstration, make sure you're there, all that kind of stuff. The other thing that I would suggest is that local groups arrange a meet-up point to take people down to the demonstration. So if you're in North London, why don't you tell people that you're going to meet in King's Cross at 12 o'clock, and then you're either going to walk down to the demo together or you're going to get on the tube together to go down to the demonstration. Then you're all in a block on the demonstration together from your areas. So I definitely suggest discussing that when we split off. And then the last thing is, as you leave today, obviously we've got lots of materials at the back, lots of posters, lots of leaflets, all that kind of stuff. But on your way home, take a pile of 50 stickers and make sure you put at least 10 or 20 of them up on your way home. Because if all of us did that on the way home, then it would completely, London would be covered tomorrow morning. It would have a big, big impact. So yeah, those are just my ideas. I'm looking forward to hearing yours. Cheers.
Our sister union, of course, and we were doing a big lobby today, big lobby of Parliament today. So we had strikers in the meeting in Emmanuel Hall. We did a collection. I don't know how much it raised, but you know, I hope it was a decent bit. So you've heard all the practical stuff, and people have already told me I don't need to go on about the state of capitalism. So I'm just going to say a few things. So I am going to say that the NUT is running this Stand Up for Education campaign. We've been running it now for several months. We started it before our conference, and I have to say, this is the biggest mobilisation that's going on in any trade union in this country. It's got three elements to it. It's got engage, which is us out being on the streets, at stalls, very often alongside the People's Assembly. I was at one a fortnight ago in Shepherd's Bush. There was the People's Assembly and us, and then, you know, we're putting each other's things on each other's stalls. I must say, the woman from Specsavers who was in between us was completely confused. But anyway, she did take all our leaflets, and who knows, she might even come. Anyway, so we've been doing all these stalls. We've also, in quite a lot of places, been running education question times to get, you know, really good engagement from not just our members, obviously, but from the public, from parents, from young people themselves. And it is a brilliant mobilisation. That's the engage bit. Today we were doing the lobby of Parliament that we did. Literally, genuinely, hundreds of MPs were lobbied today. And of course, those of our members and our supporters who couldn't be in London today were lobbying in their own constituency. So there's really a lot of that going on. One of the figures that we've discovered is that there are 1,000 teachers in every constituency, and nothing focuses the mind like saying to an MP, there are 1,000 teachers in your constituency and we know when the general election will be. It actually does mean that people are beginning to listen now. Whether they'll change their policy is a different matter, but it makes it more interesting in terms of doing the lobbying. And then of course the last bit is the industrial action strategy, and colleagues will know that July the 10th is in play. We can't say who's going to be out yet because a number of the unions are still balloting, but that's you know, that's in play, and obviously as these things come through we'll be talking a bit more about it. So I'm massively pleased with the NUT members who are engaging in this, and I think it's absolutely brilliant that we've got so many other people involved. I shan't be on a stall in London this weekend coming, or on a battle bus in London, because I'm going to be in Doncaster at our Northern Regional Training, but I will of course take the opportunity to say to all the people who come from Doncaster, make sure that you get on a bus or a coach and get down to London for this. I thought, you know, since I'm a teacher, you know, I have to do these things in a teacherly kind of way. So I've looked up a suitable quote from Aneurin Bevan. Discontent arises from a knowledge of the possible as contrasted with the actual. And that is where we are. We have to massively build that discontent. And it won't be hard to do, because we know that terrible, terrible things are happening and the effect that austerity is having on people. And if any of you have read this Below the Breadline report that came out this week, this is just on poverty, it's just on food poverty. It talks also about housing, cost of housing, and and the cost of energy prices. But, you know, this is, according to this, the UK is the 7th richest country. I variously say 5th, 6th, 7th, depending on which audience I'm talking to. But according to this, the UK is the 7th richest country in the world, and it is, of course, deeply unequal, as we know. The richest 1% of Britons own as much as the wealth of 54% of the population. And this month, the Sunday Times reported that 1,000 of the richest people in the country had doubled their wealth in 5 years. Now, teachers are by no means the poorest people, but we have lost 15% of the value of our income in 3 years. So there are teachers, particularly single-parent teachers, who are frankly really up against it. So at a time, you know, when there was all this talk from George Osborne and so on about we've turned the corner and the upturn is coming, you know, you speak to ordinary people, it just isn't. It's just a long way. So it's really important that we are absolutely out on the streets at this demonstration. It's a stroke of genius that we can line up at the BBC. I have to say, Alex Kenny from my own organisation got us to line up there on March the 26th when the NUT was on strike that day. And it is brilliant, because actually it's one way of at least the BBC having to acknowledge that there's something going on. So, I encourage you all to come along and be engaged in this. I mean, I love a demonstration, and I'm sure you all do, but I'm sure there are lots of people, you know, every time either my union's on strike or I go on a demonstration, I find that there are people, and you know, not just young people who are just coming into activity, but there are people of all ages who've actually never spent a Saturday afternoon marching and demonstrating. And the fact is, we need more of them. And I don't think this message is not a hard sell. You know, you just look at the demands for the alternative, and you know, frankly, they're quite reasonable, aren't they? You know, when you look at what the Labour Party was saying in 1945, you think, crikey, this is a bit, you know, maybe we should go back to that. Anyway, they are really, and they chime with people. These are the things that people are experiencing every day. So I'm delighted that everyone's here. I really want to know what the boat dwellers against austerity who spoke at the end of the Reform conference are doing. I want to see what they're going to be doing on Saturday, because I'm sure they'll be absolutely great. Let me finish by saying this. Last, when was it? Saturday, was it? Michael Gove gave a speech talking about the moral purpose for education. How he has the gall to stand in front of any audience and talk about the moral purpose for education, when frankly he doesn't understand what morality is about. It's not, from his point of view, about social justice and all of the things that we believe it's about. So I hope we have a very noisy and very big education block, and I'm sure we will, and I'm looking forward to hearing everybody's ideas. Thank you very much.